Supervisors meeting September 22nd, 2015. We will call the board meeting to order. Board members present, Mr. Floyd Thomas representing the Mattaponi District, Mr. Jeff Black representing the Western Caroline District, Mr. Reginald Underwood representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers representing the Madison District, Mr. Jeff Seeley representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor, and I represent the Port Royal District. We will have our invocation, Mr. Underwood, followed by our pledge. We have three young people with us today, and if you don't mind, you could come forward after the invocation and lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
Can we all stand, please? Most gracious and Heavenly Father, once again we come before you asking for your blessings, asking Heavenly Father to give us guidance as we do the business of the county. Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you again for all that you've done and all you're going to do. All blessings, all things we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. You may come to the mic, ladies and gentlemen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stay there 1 second. Stay there 1 second. Come on. You got him.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, as well for the pledge. That takes us to the amending of the agenda. I believe we have several or a couple of amendments to the agenda. Mr. Cully?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we'd like to add Gary Shaw to the presentations. He has some issues with trash adjacent to the Corbin Solid Waste site and the Henderson notice of violation. We put him at the end of presentation reports. We have an item we want to remove from the consent agenda, item D, approval of the contract with acquisition of MB Auto property. And number 3, we want to add to new business as item 5A, extension of timeline for federal engineering agreement.
Okay. If there are no objections, the agenda will stand amended as presented. Thank you. That takes us to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have just two quick ones. One, I wanted to acknowledge what a great event we had last weekend at Milford Day. It was a great event. I believe the sheriff was there and some of the sheriff deputies, so it was a great community event. Brought together quite a few folks in the community who wouldn't normally be there together, so I thought that was a great thing. The other one is, Mr. Chairman, I attended with Sean Nelson of VDOT. I attended the Belmont HOA meeting last week, and they are looking at traffic signs, way to make sure that roads are safe. So they're looking for some additional traffic signs, children at play, possibly a couple of more speed limit signs. From what VDOT said, that request has to come from the county. So after they make, this is kind of a warning, after they make some sort of identification as to where the signs will be, I'll ask the county to just approve that application so it could run through VDOT fairly quickly. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Black?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a couple. First of all, I just want to thank, speaking about Sean Nelson, VDOT has finished its study on basically 639, where basically the old Moore store, Caroline Grocery is. Because of the accident, they did a study as to the impact of what's going on with the road there, and they did come to the conclusion that that road, the curve in the road there, is very dangerous. So they do plan to put some rumble strips on that road before the curve, on either side of the curve, plus a sign that says warning trucks that tipping there is easy and a 25-mile-an-hour recommended speed. So I do want to thank VDOT for kind of that study. So we'll see where that goes. The other thing, too, of course, has been in the news, a lot of the stuff coming back on the cases. I want to thank the board for spending the money on the rate case and the surcharge case. dealing with Aqua Virginia back in the spring. I know it seems like a long time. The SEC takes a while to deliberate and decide these cases, for sure. But anyway, on the surcharge case, as it was reported in the media, Aqua was completely denied the surcharge. So there can be no surcharge on the bills for Aqua Virginia customers to pay for capital. As far as the rate case is concerned, the hearing examiner did recommend on that one. That one was less positive for the consumer. We found that out yesterday. The hearing examiner recommended to the commission that Aqua get 1.4 out of the $1.7 million that they asked for, which is an increase of 9.7%. I think I was talking to the county attorney that we do have time, I believe, to put comments in there because the commission makes the final say. So I'd like to talk to, obviously, our attorney about that. We need to put some comments in because 9.7% increase is obviously quite hefty when you start talking about bills, water and sewer bills in Bridlewood and in Lake Landor that are approaching $150, $160, $170 per month for a family. So I think that's something that we need to do as a county. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Do you have any, Mr. Underwood?
Just two, Mr. Chairman, well, three, really, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Sean Nelson also from VDOT for completing a study on Route 30 and Jericho Road. Although the study didn't go the way I had anticipated, I wanted the speed limit to be reduced, but nevertheless, they did complete the study. Second piece, with the bike race that's coming up here in the county, I know many people from my district constituents thought it would be a good idea to close schools, but after looking at it with the superintendent, I think we now realize that there was a bigger impact to hourly employees and folks losing money other than just closing schools, as well as the educational impact. So I do thank the superintendent for explaining that to members of my district. Finally, there was an article in Carolina Progress that said that about Mr. Thomas, and that we were simply blind sheep, and that we were going to spend $98 million. And whoever wrote that, the gentleman, I can just tell him, bah, I'm not a sheep. Not a sheep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have a question in relationship to the way VDOT does studies on the roads. I wonder if we should not talk to the General Assembly, because to me it doesn't make sense. If we have a road that's narrow and people drive 55, and that's what VDOT, that's the way they do the studies. They consider if they're running 55, then they'll not put up a speed limit for 45 because people are going to run 55. Well, the sheriff doesn't have a chance to give those 55 speed limit people a ticket because that's the speed limit. But if we can get it reduced to 45, then he would be able to enforce the 45. It just doesn't make sense to me, and that's been the method in which they've worked under for many, many, many years, and it doesn't make sense to do that. So it appears to me that we need to try to talk to someone as to what can be done. Secondly, we used to, years ago, have members of the General Assembly come in and the board would discuss issues that we had and the fact that we wanted certain legislative changes. It stopped. Why it stopped, I'm not sure why it stopped, but it did. I would like to see us invite the members of the General Assembly, the Senate as well as the House, into our board meeting before they go to Richmond so that we can talk about and discuss some of the issues. I know that for a while it was scheduling, but this is September. We should be able to schedule them in sometime between now and the 1st of January when they go into session. So I'd like to see us do that. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Seeley?
Yeah, I would just like to congratulate the Chamber on a great event for their crab feast last Saturday. I think a lot of people supported the Chamber, and it was great to see all the folks out. Unfortunately, I didn't win cornhole, but I did have 3 different partners that night, so I'll just leave it at that, but we did try. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. I would just like to thank Mr. Sean Nelson and people from VDOT. They were nice enough to come up to Twin Cedars. There were several citizens who had some issues, and with their driveways and some other things, and they were nice enough to come up and talk with them and offer some assistance in that light. So I would like to thank Mr. Nelson for that, along with the VDOT persons who came up. And I would also like to thank the Port Royal Ruritans for their invitation on last Thursday night to the Port Royal Ruritan meeting. It was very nice, food was excellent, and the questions were good as well. So would like to just say thank you to them as well. The only other thing I would like the board to do is if we could enter a moment of silence. We had, I believe, a law enforcement officer, I believe in Prince Edward County, Prince George County, to lose his life in the line of duty. And was 27 years old. It's always just a tragedy when any of the law enforcement officers suffer harm or certainly lose their lives. And of course, today, we would like to offer our sympathy to Senator Ed Houck and his family in the tragic situation that involved his son here today. So if we could just bow our heads for a moment in a moment of silence in honor of those two families. Thank you very much. That takes us now to presentations and reports. And our first one is the recognition of Olivia Colander for accomplishments in the Interscholastic Etruscan Association competition. I believe there is a coach here that might want to come up and talk a little bit about her great achievements in that line, and so you can do that at this time. And I believe it's Mr. Akers' district, I believe. So once she finishes, Mr. Akers, if you would like to read the resolution and go on from there, you may do so.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Beth Linton. I live at Woodpecker Farm, and we have an Interscholastic Equestrian Association riding team, both high school and middle school. Olivia Kalinda here is on my high school team, and last year we won regional finals, which is Virginia and Maryland finals. Then we won zone finals, which is the first out of 5 states, and then that qualified us for nationals. And nationals was held in Palm Beach, Florida. And Olivia, there was a competition for an art contest to whoever made the best cover for our nationals program would win. And Olivia here won that art contest. And it's a very nice cover. I have some copies here. I'd like for y'all to pass these down. This actually shows all the articles that we were in, the Caroline Progress, the Freelance Star, and a practical Horse Talk magazine, which is a big horse magazine. But anyway, Olivia is a great artist and a wonderful rider, and she was part of our team there at Nationals.
Thank you very much. Olivia, you have anything you want to add? This is your time.
It was tough competition. There were a lot of good riders, but I have an amazing trainer. So.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Akers, you want to go ahead and do
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you a lot, and I appreciate you allowing me to make this presentation. First of all, I'd like to say to Olivia, when people know where she lives, they wonder how does she become such a good rider living in Ladysmith Village. And you don't expect that to be in Ladysmith Village, but I'm real proud of Olivia, and when I heard about her success and achievements that she had recently, I just thought it was important that we, as a board, as a county, recognize the efforts of this young lady and what she has accomplished. To me, it speaks well for Caroline County. It speaks well for the Madison District, and I'm thankful for that. And it speaks well for our school system, because Olivia does attend our Caroline High School. And so I'm very proud of her, and I know her parents are extremely proud of her as to what she does, and I just wanted the board to recognize the positive achievements of a young lady such as this. And this is the reason we're here this evening. I would like to read the resolution, and then I'll invite you up on the stage, Olivia, and then your parents, certainly, and sister can come up as well. A resolution congratulating Olivia Kalinda for her accomplishments during the 2014-2015 Interscholastic Equestrian Association competition year. Whereas Olivia Kalinda, a 17-year-old senior at Caroline High School, who is the daughter of Barack and Jenny Kalinda of Ladysmith, has been a member of the Hunt Seat IEA equestrian team at Woodpecker Farm in Caroline County for 3 years. And whereas the Woodpecker Farm team competed in the Interscholastic Equestrian Association Zone 3, Region 3 competition at Hazelwild Farm in Fredericksburg during the 2014-2015 competition year. And whereas Olivia, the only Caroline County representative of the 6-rider team, won her varsity intermediate over fences class at the competition, adding 7 points to the team's overall score and helping Woodpecker Farm advance to the IEA Zone 3 finals at Garrison Forest in Maryland. And whereas at the Zone 3 finals, the Woodpecker Farm team competed against 14 teams from 7 regions across 5 states. And Olivia again won her varsity intermediate over fences class against 13 other riders. And whereas the 7 points she earned that day helped the team win the Zone 3 finals and advance to the Nationals in West Palm Beach, Florida, where they competed against the top teams from across the country and had a wonderful experience that they will never forget. And whereas Olivia's accomplishments are very impressive and have brought credit and positive recognition to Caroline County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates and commends Olivia Kalinda for a job well done and extends its best wishes for continued success in the future. Adopted this 22nd day of September 2015, Charles Cully, Clerk, Calvin B. Taylor, Chairman. Olivia, if you'd come forward.
And Coach, you may come up as well. Woodpecker Farm is on Page Road, is that right?
It's in your district.
That's good place, good place.
So this doesn't.
Please. Other board members
opinion.
Yeah, I am too. They would have said we were shooting.
All right, you owe me some money, I said, fine. You owe me some money. But the girl from the private, she was laughing.
All right, good luck to you. Good luck to you.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, you don't want it in the picture, I understand.
Okay, that takes us to our second presentation, report from Caroline Middle School History Club, Sarah Gibson and Ruth Judd.
We're just giving an update. We're not asking you for anything, but we'd like to give you an update on what the History Club has been doing. And the first thing we want to update on is our yard sale, which Laura will tell us about.
We are hosting a yard sale at Caroline High School on October 10th from 9 to 2 in the student parking lot, and we are in the teacher parking lot, and we are selling tables for $15.
And we're doing this to raise money because our next project in the garden is to get little plaques for the posts of all of the major battles that America was involved in the Korean War. So that way that we have the kids studying battles now, so that we can have something that these kids of this generation, because they weren't involved with building the garden, but we want them to feel that it's their garden too. So this is a way of continuing the work on the Korean War garden. And also as an update, this summer, Ms. Gibson and I were given the opportunity to speak at a national conference about the garden. We spoke at a national conference in D.C., the Korean War Veterans Digital Project, and we were able to present on our garden. And I have to say, it was a really wonderful experience. And I think there's going to be a lot more gardens popping up over the United States after our presentation. And if we get our way across the 38th parallel, we'll be gardens all the way across America. But the next thing we have coming up is the gala. The gala is back on. Granted, there's no more MRSA or emergencies in South Korea. We will be going to the gala, the presidential gala, October 15th. Ms. Gibson and I have been invited, along with 14th, along with 3 of our students. We'll be going to, at the invitation of the Republic of Korea, up to D.C. to meet the President of South Korea. And then on November 11th, we will be having another one of our Veterans Day ceremonies. We're looking forward and planning for that. And one more thing. Is that it? That's it. That's the update for the History Club. Any questions?
Congratulations, and we certainly appreciate your coming by and reporting. You said you were selling tables for $15?
Yes, sir. We're selling tables, so if you have some junk you want to get rid of, or if you want to sell something,
Oh, okay.
buy a table, contact Ms. Gibson.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for being here. Congratulations. It's always good to see our students progressing and see our teachers and administrators working with them. We have a fine school system.
We do.
Especially the middle school. It's always been a great place.
It's the best, really, but shh, don't tell the other schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
Could I ask before you go, Ms. Judd?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the
Yes,
two
sir.
students behind you,
Yes, sir.
could the 2 students tell us what their names are, please?
Oh, yes.
My name is Laura Morgan.
My name is Stephanie Morgan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura and Stephanie.
Mine over there, Susan Morgan.
Okay, that takes us to our report on plan improvements to I-95 rest stops in Caroline County.
Oh, where's our VDOT guy?
We have a VDOT person?
Or
We'd anticipate
somebody from that company, KCI?
Okay, maybe we will go ahead and we'll
Yeah,
come back
yeah,
to it
it's
if someone from VDOT comes. Okay, that takes us to a presentation for fire EMS districts, GIS mapping and online content. Mr. Locke.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Before you tonight, we have a brief presentation on the outcomes of the Fire Rescue GIS mapping project. This evening, I'll be asking the board to consider adopting officially the new fire rescue districts. I'll also be asking for your consideration on a drive time map. Turn that on. On a drive time map that will show people time to service. So as people move to the county, they understand what the expectation is in a rural community. Got to wait for the projector to come on. At the same time, in case anybody's interested, we're trying out Apple TV, so we have no wires to the projector, something a little different. It's working just fine. Got a peanut gallery back here. Oop. Now it's operator error. As we embarked on this project, one of the impetus for this was we had no consistent means of reproducing maps of the fire and EMS districts. They had been hand-drawn for years, and really the only valid maps that were out there when you queried the system was a hand-drawn map at the 911 center on panels, which had been thrown out when we went to the CAD system. So no one had a means of really understanding how we go about reproducing our maps for our stations and really what was entailed in those district lines. Throughout the years, we've had different district lines and county documents because, again, they were hand-drawn and they were taken from the best case information that people knew. And really, we had no way for the public to understand holistically when people move here how fast or how long it would take for service, both on the fire and EMS side. And so those were some of the driving questions as we entered this project. On our current county GIS website that's maintained by Planning Department, we have 3 EMS response districts that are listed right there. We actually have 5, so the EMS districts of Upper Caroline and Port Royal are not shown on our county website, so a little bit misleading. When we go to the fire side, I apologize, it's not working all that well. When we go to the fire side, we can really see where these hand-drawn lines come into place. We have the correct number of fire districts, but when you hand-draw the lines in place, if you look to the right, the map, the blue and the brown, depicts different fire districts. As you can see, fire districts bisect people's parcels. So whose parcel is it? Which district is a parcel in? Does it depend where the house is built on these maps here? So very difficult in deciding which house goes where, what district is going to respond first. The screen's a little bit washed out. The solution to that, as we'll look in the GIS layers, was to divide the parcels by the actual parcel boundary instead of a geographic boundary or hand-drawn line. And I'm better able to show you that when we go to the actual GIS map. Here's a map of the county. In red, you have the fire stations. If you look very closely, the F in the fire station, if it's blue, that is also an EMS response district. These are the new district boundaries, and they're based on parcels. So you don't see a smooth line. You don't see road center lines. They're based on individual parcels. And as we zoom in on those properties, you can get a better idea of where those parcel boundaries would be here. Okay, so people have the ability to zoom down. On the GIS website, you could scroll up and turn on the tax parcel. And you can see it starting to load. And you can see this line here now follows the tax parcel boundary. So everybody on 207 is in this boundary. So we're no longer using road center lines. One department doesn't have the right side of the road and one department doesn't have the left side of the road. Whoever can cover the road the fastest will have both sides of those parcels. Because so many documents use the official Fire and EMS boundaries, I would ask the board consider at this time adopting these boundaries as the official boundaries for the county, or answer any questions.
Chief, you went over these boundaries with the command staff and all the district chiefs, so they've all seen this and are on board.
Yeah, these boundaries have been vetted through the career and volunteer staff. They're several months old. The boundaries came about, too, I think it's important that you know, through an analysis of drive time, and then we're going to talk about that in a minute, but the changes in the boundary lines were based on who can get to an area faster. So computer modeling was done using our road speeds from VDOT and our truck movement to see which apparatus could get to those areas, and those boundaries were tweaked in very small amounts. The biggest change in the boundaries came with Caroline Pines. Caroline Pines is faster from Frog Level than it was from Ladysmith Rescue. The other thing was we aligned the fire and rescue districts where we could do that. For example, Caroline Pines was in Frog Level Fire Department's response area, but it was in Ladysmith's rescue area. So we, again, aligned those where it made sense and who could get there faster, and that's where these boundaries came from. Today's reality is when we have a house fire in anyone's boundary, we're sending 4 departments to make sure we have enough manpower. So the district boundaries aren't just as they used to be so territorial. They're just really, for us, planning tools.
Okay, and board members may have questions. I guess one of the questions that I have is the boundaries that are set. Is there a way for citizens to know about the boundaries and who is going to be responding should there be an emergency?
Yeah, what we'd like to do is for you to adopt them officially, and this data set will then be moved over to Planning Department. The Planning Department will have that on the GIS site. So they can drill right down to their property, their individual parcel, and see which rescue company's coming and which fire company's coming. Okay. And it will be correct versus what we have today.
Okay. I guess, but what I was thinking, the board members, most of the board members, all the board members have district meetings. And it might be a good idea if someone may could attend some of the district meetings. A lot of times you don't have a lot of people at the meetings, but that's about the best way that I can think of. Because I don't know how the other board members feel about it, but I would personally like to have a demonstration done at Port Royal or maybe at Upper Carolina. Because I know one of the questions was the response time to Portabago Bay. And I don't know, I know that there are some things that have to happen in order to improve that, and I understand. But certainly, this might be an avenue to get citizens involved and to get them to understand just why it is that it takes a while to get there or how long it takes and so forth.
I'd be happy to come and talk to them.
Okay. Does any other board members have questions? Now, you're asking us to approve the boundary lines that you've set.
That's correct. To make them the official boundary lines of the county for fire and EMS so that we can use those in official documents. Put them on the website, the GIS site.
Okay, Mr. Akers and then Mr. Seeley.
Just want to make sure that the area rescue squads and fire departments in each area understands, and you say that they have been approached, they have been given the demonstration, and they've all bought into what you're wanting to do. I just think it's important that we do that. Secondly, I'm not sure, because it was my understanding, and maybe that's not the way things work now, that during the day, for instance, you would have paid people in, let's say, Bowling Green and Ladysmith or some of the other stations in Frog Level, and regardless of where they had to go, it had to be out of one of those 3 stations, because the chances were that say Port Royal was not going to have anyone in their rescue squad facility in order to run calls.
We're still giving them an opportunity to answer the call, but one of the staffed units will be dispatched when they're not staffed. We use a status management today, and you're correct. The stations that have career staff are up on the CAD. They can see them. So if there's a call anywhere in the county, it's the closest station that's going to go. But we also have to, in my opinion, alert the volunteer station that is in that geographic area. So even though Port Royal is not upstaffed, they don't have any volunteers or career staff, that we still tone them out to see if they can get a response from home, and sometimes they do, and that Bowling Green unit is then sent back.
Okay, so, but what you're saying is, like in Caroline Pines, you mentioned Caroline Pines in specific. In the past, Ladysmith Rescue serviced those calls,
That's correct.
and now it's going to be the Frog Level Rescue Squad's going to service those calls.
That's correct. And the reason for that is,
It's
faster.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, okay, makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seeley.
I just wanted to make sure that all the volunteers had actually seen, understood, because nothing I hate worse than for us to approve something and I get a call, we're not sure we agree with it or we haven't seen it.
yeah, they've had this, the data was pushed out in January. We had the last information meeting on this in June with no comments. We were able to print accurate maps now for each of the districts, and they were all given maps of the changes. So no comments came back, and this is a pretty old topic for us. Just getting it on your agenda took a little while, but they have been vetted. They have the maps of those changes, both on the fire side and EMS side. In some areas, for example, Sparta, none of their lines changed. Port Royal, none of theirs changed.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I just have one other, did any other board member, I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas?
You want to finish first?
No, go ahead.
Chief, the reality is that the citizens, this particular project really doesn't have anything to do with the citizens. Once I call 911, doesn't matter where they come from, so citizen response will still be the same. The reality is this is just a planning tool for you, your staff, and then, of course, the board as it relates to budget.
Correct.
Right? Okay, so have we planned for all of the future stations we're going to have in the county?
Yes, we're trying to get these adopted, and we'll work down to that future, but we have those for you tonight to see as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And the last thing is, I didn't remember us buying any Esri software. Did we rent this, or?
This is part of our project. They're allowing us on their site.
Okay.
This is their site. I'm a user on their site for this project. The data set then will rely, we do have an Esri product in Mike's office. Angelin Crowder does that for us.
Arc Info? The full-blown one? Subset? Okay, because they're shape files. And
They are.
And when you said shape files, I knew who it was.
Yep.
All right, so I wanted to make sure we weren't using the software and all of a sudden it would disappear based on a user agreement.
No, it'd be moved from the
Okay.
Worldview site to the county's Worldview site.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But we need your permission to publish those.
Okay. Other board members have questions? Okay, I do have one more. Now, we don't have a paid person in the Port Royal Rescue Squad. Okay, is that the only section of the county? What other section of the county are there not paid persons?
We do not have any career staff in Port Royal. We do not have any career staff in Sparta, nor do we provide EMS service out of Sparta. We do not have any career staff after 6 p.m. in Ladysmith Fire Department or after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday in Bowling Green. We do provide one career provider in Bowling Green Fire on Saturday, 24 hours to drive.
Okay, all right, so, but Port Royal and Sparta are the two that have no career. What about Upper Carolina?
Upper Carolina does not have any career.
Okay, so what is the plan to address that?
It's in the budget. Staffing is in the budget, and you will see that. It was in the budget last year. We're looking to hire, or put on a fourth ambulance crew right now. We have enough demand for that, and you'll see that in the budget. It comes down to, the personnel hasn't been approved.
Okay, all right, so when an emergency arises in those areas, then the response comes from?
The closest station, depending on where that is.
Okay.
And with Upper Carolina, if you use that example, the bridge being out kind of predicates who's going to come.
Okay.
Whether Bowling Green or Ladysmith.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah.
Board members? Yes.
When we talk about paid staff after 6 p.m. At Ladysmith, You say there's none there.
Ladysmith Fire.
Oh, Ladysmith Fire, okay.
Ladysmith Rescue is 24/7.
Okay.
Ladysmith Rescue, Bowling Green Rescue, and Frog Level Rescue, 24 hours a day, one crew in each one of those stations. And that's one of the things we've discussed is a fourth crew.
For EMS.
For EMS, because there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
We can have all the three of those crews out and be toning for volunteers and not get them. So when he was talking fire on both Bowling Green and Ladysmith, we do have paid crews there during the day, but not after 6 o'clock.
Got you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you need an approval from the board of the boundaries.
Boundaries,
And
correct.
that's basically for your benefit. That doesn't really affect citizens. That's,
No.
okay.
No.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the boundaries set forth by Chief Loftus in
Second.
his presentation.
Okay, it's moved and properly second that we approve the boundaries set by the chief as presented. Are there questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Okay. What I'm going to present to you now is for your consideration. Okay, it does not have to be adopted. Still need it. Okay. In order to get those boundaries where they were,
We turned on the wrong ones.
we did some drive time analysis, as I talked about. And so right now, with the boundaries the way they are at our fire stations and our service delivery, we'll look at EMS. This map here behind you will give you a breakdown of our time to service. Okay, and you'll see the legend to the left. So you can pick any station for EMS coverage only, and you can see driving out from the station, it will take 5 minutes to be in the dark green, 0 to 10 minutes to be in the light yellow, so on and so forth. Okay? If you look off into Sparta, you see that the response time is very high out here, and it's because, again, Sparta does not have EMS coverage, and that coverage is either coming out of Frog Level or coming out of Bowling Green. Okay? We can look at the same data for the fire districts. Maybe. All right. Same station placement. You can see that the changes in Sparta, because Sparta does have a fire department, it is able to respond out there. And again, this is drive time. It doesn't build in any false data for getting volunteers to the station, but strictly driving out from your house. So when you move here and you move somewhere, I think it's important for the citizens to know to drive from our nearest fire station to your home is going to take this time at a minimum.
Are these optimum drive times? Or you just drove them and said this is what the drive time is?
These are drive times 10 miles an hour faster than the posted speed limit for our apparatus.
Okay, not counting weather conditions. So if it's raining hard, it'll be longer. If it's snowing, it'll be longer.
These are this is the fastest we could get to you in theory.
Okay.
Yep. As I said, it doesn't build, like for Sparta, you would have to have some volunteers coming from home to get to the station. It doesn't build in that artificiality.
Okay.
So this data is out there. It is, we own it as a county. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention to whether you'd want to share it with the public or not. Because there is some anomaly there. You have to build in, somebody getting to the station. You can build in weather adversities. Things that are built into this data are anomalies in the road. For example, if you're going in Lake Caroline, you got to cross over the dam. There's some artificial time built in there to get our fire trucks onto the dam and up and off the dam, because we can't go the posted speed limit or 10 miles above that with a fire apparatus. So that's how the data looks today.
Can you show road layer with that?
Yes, sir. It'll take a minute to draw. I'm on the wireless, it's a little bit slow.
Okay, so that's, who's the yellow at the bottom of 207?
This area here,
Is that Caroline Pine?
Caroline Pines is down here, yes, right there in the,
So, what's that? Oh, Spratt property, okay.
Yeah.
I know what that is.
so you have that data. As Mr. Thomas alluded to, if we look at, in the future, let me turn this off. we look at some system enhancements. And again, for me, this is a planning tool. Turn that off. We can go out. We look at a future fire station, certainly in the Carmel Church area. Road layer still on. And we look at another enhancement would be adding EMS coverage to Sparta. We can begin to see what our system would look like. All right, if we looked at rescue, which again is our predominant call volume, you notice out here our response time diminishes greatly. If we added EMS coverage to Sparta and added a Carmel Church station with an ambulance, 94% of the county would be covered 0 to 10 minutes time to service. So from a planning perspective for us, that's important. If we turn off that rescue, we look at fire, you notice we do away with the yellow in Caroline Pines and all of this area here as far as fire response. For me, that's a planning tool. For you as the board, that's a planning tool as we look down the road for a new station in the Carmel Church. And for me, adding EMS coverage to Sparta, we can kind of predict what our outcomes will be. Again, it's all based on staffing and cost. But for me, those two options, I think, are probably within the next 10 years for the county. So, it's up to the board whether you want to put any of this data on the website, so I leave that for discussion. If you want to ask any questions about it, we'll certainly try to answer those.
Board members have questions.
Do we want to refine the data? The data is valid. You feel comfortable with all the data?
The data's been validated, correct, by driving actually. So computer model here, road tested. So I'm comfortable with the data. What I'm not comfortable with, and I think it's important that you know, this is strictly driving. And I don't want to give the illusion our response time is 0 to 5 minutes. Our response time is going to be somewhat longer than that. We have to add some degree of artificiality. We need to add some verbal statements or written statements on here saying, hey, this is best case scenario, all stations staffed. This is what it's going to take to get to your house.
Mr. Chairman, I applaud anything we can do to make government seem more open and things of that nature. I'm just not sure this is going to serve the right purpose out on the website, because if I click on it and say it's supposed to be 5 minutes because I'm in a green area, there could be a lot of problems. Now, it's a planning tool. It might be good for staff to use, but I don't know if it's generally a public tool.
Well, personally, I just feel like it needs to be a planning tool, and it needs to be for us as a board to see, because we all represent various areas here, and it's no secret. We're concerned about the county, but we're also concerned about our area and what needs to be done to address the issues of our various areas. So I don't know that necessarily putting it on the website is necessary at this time. I think what's more important is that we as elected officials know and understand what our area needs are and try to work towards trying to deal with that and to for better service to the citizens, basically. So,
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
You said you had you said you had tested this?
Yes.
I mean, as well. I guess my concern is, for the lakes, I guess we cover Lake Caroline too, as well as Lake Landor. I have a hard time believing in some of the areas in Lake Landor, for example, that a fire truck, once the call is going up to Lake Landor, that I don't think I can be from the Food Lion parking lot or to my house in 10 minutes. I mean, and that's going down Lady Smith Road. I mean, I'm kind of farther back in the lake, so with that,
Again, we didn't test every property. We tested the boundaries of each color.
right.
So, and again, it's the speed limit plus 10. So, based on the amount of area to cover, I'm sure there's a couple of areas that aren't 100%. There's no way we can validate that.
I just think within the lakes, I would imagine Lake Caroline would have the same problem with the roads and so forth. That would be a tough tough sell to the people. So I would tend to agree with Mr. Thomas on that situation. I wouldn't want something out there saying that I think that would be a burden for you guys, saying, hey, your house, you have a situation in Lake Caroline or Lake Land, we're going to be there in 10 minutes, and it doesn't happen. Thank you.
I agree.
Other board members? Thank you, Chief. We appreciate your time.
The date is there, so thank you. And the Apple TV works.
Okay, that takes us to a report from Mr. Gary Shaw. Mr. Shaw, if you want to come forward at this time.
Some pictures I'd like to.
Good evening. My name is Gary Shaw, and I live on Long Branch Road in the northern part of the county. I'd like to bring two issues to the Board of Supervisors this evening that I think that I'm asking for your help, I'm asking for your support. First of all, I've lived in Caroline County now my wife and I have lived here for more than 25 years, and again, I live on Long Branch Road. We love this county, it's our home, and we intend to stay here. This is where we want to be. I'm a retiree of 24 years in the United States Army. I'm also a retired school teacher and elementary school principal. And I am completely retired at this time. The first issue I'd like to talk to you about is the trash dumping on Wide Wake and Long Branch Road areas. There's a convenience center located at the intersection of Wide Wake and Route 2, and this issue of trash dumping has been going on now for as long as I've lived there. It's a regular occurrence, and the police in the county are very familiar with this issue. I've enlisted their support to try to find who's doing it, and we've had limited success in doing that because of the fact that unless you find someone physically dumping or have some type of evidence or proof, it's very, very difficult. In those cases where we did have that, it was very successful. The trash includes household trash, furniture, tires, soiled diapers, paint cans, drug paraphernalia, and bottles and cans. And I've been picking up this trash on a weekly basis now for as long as I can remember. I'm out there with my trash can and my whatever trying to pick this stuff up. My wife and I participated in the Adopt a Highway program with VDOT for 2 miles of Long Branch Road. And we had to get out of that about 2, maybe 3 years ago because our name was posted on the sign, and consequently, the people started dumping the trash right in my driveway. And there are several pictures there. One, I think the very top, shows one of the examples. And those pictures, if I could say, there's several examples of what we've had out there. These are not the exception. This is a regular occurrence on that area. I pick it up, and it's becoming very, very difficult. Long Branch Baptist Church also had an area of Long Branch Road that they were picking up, and they had to give it up as well because it just got to the point where, again, you can't keep up with how much it is. We've had the police involved, as I said, and with limited success because try and get the evidence to find out who's doing this type of stuff. I went out, then there's a picture in that packet, and I apologize, a couple of those pictures are really faded out. My printer started to die, and I didn't have the means to get them done. But I purchased roughly 10 signs that indicate that the area is under surveillance, camera surveillance, and that violators of dumping will be prosecuted. That has helped some. It hasn't solved the issue at all. I don't know why, but again, we've had some limited success. What I'm asking for is, basically, I'm going to continue to pick up the nuisance trash that occurs out there. The McDonald's bags, the soda cans, the coffee containers, and cigarette packs, or whatever. I will continue to pick up that as long as I can. But I cannot keep up with the amount and the volume of trash that we're finding out there. And I don't have a solution for you, but I know that we need help up there to pick up that trash. And one picture is just, it's still there right now between Wide Wake and Long Branch, if you're familiar with that area. It's a huge pile of clothing and household items that somebody has just dropped there. And it's becoming unmanageable. And I don't think it's fair to expect citizens to have to go out there and pick that stuff up. Like I said before, I call the police whenever I find drug paraphernalia and whatever. And that's pretty often. But I feel somewhat guilty calling a police deputy all the way from the far side of the county to come over so he can pick up a couple syringes or a burnt spoon or whatever. But again, this is happening all the time. This is not a rare occurrence. So what I'm asking for is a solution. And I'm coming before you today because I don't have one. But I know that I can't keep picking it up. And nobody else seems to be doing much of it either. So that's the first issue. I'm thankful that we have a convenience center there where citizens can dump their trash. But still, it's just not getting done the way I think it should. Do you have any questions about that issue, please?
And I'm sure board members may have questions. Let me just say what's been done so far to try to address this issue. Because there have been some involvement on the part of the county to try to address this issue. I know I talked with Mr. Shaw probably about a month and a half ago.
Yes, sir.
And that was the first time that I was aware that this issue occurred. Of course, immediately, Mr. Our Public Works Director, Mr. Shebel, came up and we talked with Mr. Shaw, and I believe we got some county people out to address that situation at that time. Of course, prior to that time, we initiated the convenience center sites, and we placed them, sporadically around the county, hoping that, because this isn't the only place in the county where this kind of issue takes place. And so when we designed the convenience center sites, we were hoping that with them being manned and people knowing the hours they could come and just deposit their trash in an acceptable fashion. And I think that has helped. It certainly has not, it has not taken care of the problem, but I think it's helped. And as I said, I know Mr. Shebel and the county came and to address that. I don't know, whether, and I wasn't aware that after that happened, that this occurrence was still going on. The other thing that we've done already is, we kind of asked citizens, and this works sometimes it does not, but in the rural area, it's very easy for people to dump and kind of go on, and it's kind of hard to catch them. And so one of the things some citizens have done is to try to put some type of fencing or something in the areas of where people come onto your property. Sometimes that makes it a little more difficult for people to come onto the property and dump. And of course, I know even at the convenience center sites, people have dumped outside the sites when they were closed. And I know they've gone through the trash, and occasionally they'll find who the owners were, and those people have been fined, or so I guess what I'm saying is that we've done some things. Now, obviously, if it's not working, we have to try and figure out what else we can do in addition to what we've already done. But I just wanted to be noted that, we have tried to address that issue, not just with Mr. Shaw, but certainly with other board members as well, with other citizens from other districts as well. So having said that, if you have, okay.
I'm just wondering, what is the fine for illegal dumping?
I talked to Sheriff Lippa.
Yeah, Sheriff Moses, Major Mosier. Major, excuse me, I'm seeing it in the future.
It varies from judge to judge, but it's up to $500 fine.
for littering. We've been working with Mr. Shaw for a number of years for this problem. We've actually had cameras out there. We've had people go through the trash. We have had limited success in prosecuting people for littering, but it's like Mr. Taylor said, it's a very rural area, and it's not just bags of trash. It may be just somebody going by throwing McDonald's bags out.
Is there a difference between littering and illegal dumping?
Well, yeah, you have illegal dumping as well, and the fine is going to be the same for both. Yeah, that's right.
So if we wanted that increase, we'd have to...
I would have to check the statute to see if the county can
right.
impose any additional ordinances that would actually incur more of a fine or something like that.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Cully, if we could look and see if the county can impose additional fine. I'm not sure if we can or not. I'm sure it's regulated by the state probably, but if we could look at that and see if there's anything that we could do to help this issue, I think anything we do will be greatly appreciated, even if we put some additional signs out there.
We were addressing the dumping in front of the convenience sites and enforcing that and charging people, and then what happens is it turns out it comes back on Mr. Shaw's property. So it may be
and it's possible that there could be a correlation between the hours of operation, so maybe we need to look at extending some hours to see if that in some way helps the situation. If it helps the situation, then the mere fact that we've given people an opportunity to dump legally in the convenience site may be an answer.
I certainly think that would be worth looking at. Mr. Chairman?
I was just saying,
Ms. Akers and then Mr. Black.
could we look at doing something now? I know in some localities what they do is they'll have, one site will be open on a Tuesday and the day will be, another site will be closed on that Tuesday. But not all sites in the county that I'm thinking of is closed on the same day. They're closed on different days. Now, it's going to have to get people to get readjusted to when a site is closed. Now, I understand that. But it may be in the long run the best thing to do. Because I'll be quite honest with you. We've had this now for what? Many years as far as being closed on Wednesday. And there are some Wednesdays I get up and I go to the convenience center because I forget about that the day is Wednesday or that they're closed on Wednesday. And so, because every day is Sunday basically when you're retired. So I just get, I'm just not sure that we shouldn't look at doing something along those lines. But secondly, Major, you said that you had at some point tried surveillance cameras.
That's correct.
And what happened? Did they just not catch anybody, or were you not able to read, the license plates, or not able to get information off of the surveillance camera, or what?
It's very difficult, especially in a well-traveled road. The camera usually operates off vibration or movement, and we would fill up the film fairly fast on the camera, and then trying to determine, then you have to capture either the identity of the person or the vehicle tag number. It's very difficult.
When did we last try it?
Oh, we had a case right in my driveway. The one picture, and it's a poor picture, but it shows that I circled a camera that they placed on the tree.
Yes.
And when that camera was placed, within about a week and a half, we caught an individual that came down Long Branch Road from Bowling Green, and they drove right past the convenience center, which was closed, of course, about 3 in the morning, backed up into my driveway about 30 or 40 feet, and then proceeded to dump about 7 or 8 bags, huge bags of trash. That camera, as clear as I'm looking at you right now, had the license plate number, the pictures of the individuals involved, and they were caught, they were prosecuted, they got a very significant fine. So it was just as crystal clear as you can possibly imagine. But again, as the Major said, to do that in the area would require
multiple cameras.
A lot of cameras, right?
Yeah.
But you indicated earlier that they were still dumping in your driveway, or...
Well, what happened was, because my name was posted on the Adopt a Highway sign just up from my home, they started dumping right in my driveway. And I do not call the police on every instance. It would be too much. But it's these pictures, please, I assure you, these are a regular occurrence. We've had at least 4 to 5 instances since you were out, Mr. Taylor, that big piles of stuff that they dumped. And the police have come on several, but it's a number of cases.
You were talking about the camera, and you were talking about the film that's So it's pretty expensive to operate that?
It feels like.
No.
It just fills up quickly.
It's all digital, there's no film. You know, it just fills up if you want to get it close to the road, but back on his driveway, it's a little different story. But to get some of the dumping on close to the road, it only holds so much data in the actual camera, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, are there any particular days that you notice that are worse than other days, or is it?
No, sir. It really is, there's no specific pattern. But just another small example, we had a case, earlier last year where an individual went to the convenience site at the proper hour, drove in, and he had 4 huge truck tires, but they had rims on. And the convenience center will not take the tires with the rims. So they turned him away. He went directly over to Long Branch Road, and he dumped them there. And the way we found this individual, it was to go back to the convenience center and asked if anybody had done that. And sure enough, they recognized the individual, and the policeman went over and apprehended him. But that's an example. It's just, you cannot combat that type of thing, I don't think.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think we've talked about this before. I mean, I think one of the things we can get from the sheriff's office would be nice to get some data of how many tickets, if we can get that from you, how many tickets have been written in the last couple of years, because I think it's one of the things is an enforcement issue. I think if it's out there that people can't do this, that would be a huge help, number one. Number two, I think it is going to take some pulling some people's heads together, because it is over multiple districts. I mean, it is in my district. I'll call VDOT, at least probably once a month, Sean Nelson. They're great getting their prisoners out there to clean up the trash. But it is very, very common coming from basically the Spotsylvania County line all the way down to the Route 1 intersection there that it occurs. I mean, I know personally in the last couple months, I've actually had two contacts by constituent, actually from Mr. Akers, one on CCC Road and one in Bridlewood, where there was an incident where there was dumping in the back of Bridlewood. And then someone on CCC Road, they're saying they'd moved in, they love the county, but they're just wanted to move to a rural area, and there's just trash constantly. I think it is a cross-county issue, and I think that we do need to figure out, because it's property values. I mean, if people are going to visit Lake Caroline or Lake Landor or Bowling Green and they're seeing trash along the road, it just doesn't say a lot about us. And I think that is something that we need to figure out. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not saying I have a solution, but we do know the problem exists. I do feel bad for Mr. Nelson, because I'll call him up and say, hey, I need trash on Ladysmith Road, and a week later, 2 weeks later, it's back to where it was, after they do a great job. They do a great job picking up that trash. They do. But it's 1 or 2 weeks later, coming to the meeting tonight, there was at least 2 or 3 full bags of trash between Bridlewood subdivision and Lake Landor on the side of the road. People complain about that, but unless it starts hitting people's pocketbooks, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but we've got to try to figure out something. Thank you.
Well, if you will, I think one of the things we probably need to do is to look at the hours that the convenience centers are operating. Maybe we need to make some adjustment. I don't know. I don't think we need to just go in and start changing, but I guess if we could kind of try and determine when these occurrences are, the majority of the time, obviously, it's when the convenience center is not open. Now, certainly, it'll never be open at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure of that. But I don't know whether we need to look at later than 7, or maybe some open on Wednesday, some being closed on Wednesday. Again, I don't have the answer, but I do know that as a board, we need to sit down with Joey and also with the police department, maybe, and see if we can put our heads together and come up with some recommendations that might help to address it. Because as has been said, you're not the only person with this issue. You just happen to be the only one here tonight. But I'm sure if other people had known you were going to come, I'm pretty sure they would have come also. Mm-hmm. So, again, we will look at it. I don't have an answer for you now, but certainly it's something that we need to get on our agenda and talk about and see how we can try to address it. Now, to be very honest about it, I don't think we're ever going to get rid of it totally. I think it goes with being in the rural area. But certainly we can do a little better than this. It should not be to this magnitude, and we'll look at it.
Okay. I just, like I said, I will continue to pick up the Nitnoy bags and bottles of stuff, but I just cannot keep picking up the big piles. And there's piles there as we speak. They're sitting there right now.
Right. And then I will say, if you notice a particular pattern, you don't have a problem calling me. I don't have a problem, relaying that information to the proper people, so that we can try to get a handle on it. We will do everything we can.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The second issue, and I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. I respect your time. It's the issue of Henderson Company and the burrow pit that they're operating up in the northern part of the county, off Long Branch Road. This is the second time this has happened. Like I said, I've lived here more than 25 years, and the first time it happened was about 20 years ago. And it's the same occurrence. At that time, I called the county because there was heavy truck traffic and heavy equipment operating. I called the county, and at that time, they didn't know anything was going on. They came out, and subsequently, the operation was shut down. It was over. But now, back this last August, it had been going on for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I finally called the county and said, hey, what is going on back there again? And it turns out that Henderson Company was back there operating the same burrow pit. And I called the police because they were operating these large tandem dump trucks, and they would park the trucks right on Long Branch Road because it's only a one-way road, one lane road back to the pit. So therefore, they had to wait for the full trucks to come out so the other trucks could proceed in. It was a terrible safety situation. I mean, there were people, even the mail lady talked to me. She said, I don't know what to do because they would block the road and she would have to skirt around them right on that S-curve. And it's a dangerous curve in the best of times anyway. But I called the police, and finally they put out some signage. But finally, the operation was shut down. Again, this is the second time it's happened. And now what I find is there's been an agreement where they have halted the operation, but they have been given 2 days to go back and to continue to remove material, which I don't understand why we would give them 2 more days to remove material when they were found in violation of the county ordinance. And if the last time I came before the council over 20 years ago, they said that they were going to go in and regrade and reseed and fix all that they had done. Sir, that never happened. And I don't know if it's going to happen again. According to the agreement, and I've got a copy of it, it says that I think they're given 30 to 45 days to go in there to take care of what's happened. They don't admit fault on this. They don't think that they've done anything wrong. And it's one of those, you fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So, or vice versa. But it's just, I don't understand how this happens. How do they come into this county, our home, and do this type of operation, and no one knows about it? No one knows about it. My well at my home is 38 feet. And if you'll check, you'll see that most of the homes on Long Branch Road and also the Caroline Village area are about the same. They have already dug down, according to Mr. Fincham, about 17 feet. But they've also hauled items in there, and I don't know what they've hauled in there, what they have buried in the ground. I just can't believe this has happened again. It's the same operation. He turns up his nose at this county. He doesn't live here. He has no stake here. I think it's wrong. And I think it should be stopped for good.
Yeah. Okay, and again, I can bring the board up to date on what's been done so far, and certainly any board member who wants to chime in can do that. But certainly I sympathize with you. We've had conversations about this, Mr. Sean, and we've talked about what happened and talked with planning department, and basically one of the issues that was told to the board was that it happened 20 years ago, so I don't know, some people were on the board, some weren't. But at any rate, this last time, they had a permit. Now, they didn't have a county permit, but they had an EMS permit by the state, which still did not allow them to do what they did. But it did say that they had to clean it up, they had to do whatever, put it back like it was, but they still violated a county ordinance.
And they don't see it that way, Mr.
Right.
Taylor.
Well, we were told basically that in most situations of this nature, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Mr. Fincham, or the attorneys as well, we were told that in most situations like this, they're usually told, obviously, that you have to stop the operation, you have to put it back into the same shape that it was in when you went it in the first place. And you're giving, I guess, a warning. And basically what was said was that if we go to court, under what normally happens in these situations, that's probably what the outcome is going to be. Now, we don't have any way of knowing unless you go, but that's what we were told. But the other thing was that they have to clean it up, but if they, and my understanding is, if we go this route and they do it again, we can automatically get an injunction against them that will shut them down for good until they're fined or whatever the circumstance is. Whereas if we had just gone to court, we may not have gotten that. Then the other thing was there was a time involvement. If we had gone to court, they could have appealed and they could have dragged it on, and it would have been sometime up into next year maybe before we actually got anything actually done. This way, they had, I believe, until the 30th of September, but they were allowed 2 days, which I have a little issue with that, but they were allowed 2 days, and then after the 30th of September, they were allowed 45 days to go in and clean up, put it back like it was, and make sure they fixed, any damage or anything that's caused. Now, whether or not they're going to do that, I can't sit here and say they are, but certainly if they don't, then they are violating the agreement, which then brings in the injunction or whatever we can do next. So that's kind of where we are.
If they damage the water, the aquifer out there, I would dare say that there will be many private wells that have to be dug, and somebody will have to pay for that.
Right. And I'm certainly not arguing that point, but I think at this point, that would happen anyway. I mean, if their wells damaged as a result of what they did, we could go to court with them, but if we can't, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but if we couldn't show that damage at the time, I don't know that they would be held responsible for it. So, again, and don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not arguing for them. I'm just saying,
with a 38-foot well, and you're already down 17 feet, you don't have much room there. Plus, we don't know, we really don't know how far they went down.
Right. And that's true.
And what they buried there.
Yeah, and I certainly don't argue that point. We were basically told, based on the information that we had, the best course of action to take was to do what we did. It would give us the opportunity to do the injunction if they came back. It would be a quick way to get rid of this problem, to end this problem, rather than drag it out, till sometime next year, thus giving them a chance to go in there and do even more damage. So, that's kind of where we are with that. And of course, other board members, if you want to.
Mr. Taylor, all I can say is, at the meeting, I do remember now, and it was for this board trying to find a resolution where we had some control. If we, did not let that finish. It was really picking the lesser of two evils.
Yes, sir.
To where we had some, as Mr. Taylor so articulated, we had some control over it happening again. If we had gone in, they could have continued the process, but now we do have something in place that allows us some latitude in stopping it from happening again. So wasn't the absolute best resolution, but, and certainly, we hope nothing bad happens, but we were basically kind of, hands were tied in terms of what we could do there.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come here and say this. I certainly hope that they will take care of the issue up there and not do this in any other part of the county.
Mr. Shaw,
Sir.
if you see a dump truck drive onto the property,
Yes, sir.
call the sheriff's office.
Okay, sir.
They are done. They are not allowed. They have 8 days. If a dump truck arrives after the 30th of September, call the sheriff's office.
All right, sir. Thank you.
And when they do come to refurbish the area, we will have county persons there to oversee that and to do what we can to make sure that it's put back the way it was and
Yes,
there's
sir.
no permanent damage.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the consent agenda, Recreational Advisory Committee. There are board members
I
who
would
need
like to make an appointment of Whitney Watts to the Recreation Committee from the Bowling Green District.
Okay. Are other board members wanting to make recommendations tonight? Or is that the only one?
It's only one.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
thought we had 2 at large. Okay, then we can do the 2 at large next month.
Okay, right. Okay, so you want to make that in the form of a motion?
I would like to nominate Whitney Watts to be the Recreation Advisory Committee member from the Bowling Green District.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that Whitney Watts would be named as the Recreation Advisory person to represent the Bowling Green District. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items A, B, C, E, F, G, H, and I. Is there any consent agenda item that any board member would like to pull or question? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, other than item D.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and properly second that we would approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item D. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, we have a closed meeting. Okay, so we have a closed meeting. We will entertain a motion to go into closed meeting under section 2.2-3711A5 Code of Virginia. Discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and properly second that we go into closed section under those just mentioned sections and codes. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. We're going to now reconvene the September 22nd Carlisle County Board of Supervisors meeting. All right. We need a motion to come out of closed.
I'll make a motion, we come out of closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and properly second that we will come out of closed session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Mr. Thomas, do you certify that we only discuss those things that we went in to closed session to discuss?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
And I so certify. Is there a motion at this time?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that we apply for an HB2 grant, House Bill 2 project funding for Route 639 improvements in the amount of $28,355,000 as needed for a 4-lane divided typical road section with other supporting improvements using revenue sharing in the amount of $12 million, of which the county match is $6 million.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would apply for the HB grant as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Let's move to, this takes us to the public comment section of our meeting. I apologize. Public comment starts normally at 7:30, but our closed meeting went longer than we had anticipated, so I certainly apologize for any inconvenience. But at this time, we will go directly to the public comment section of the meeting. If there are citizens who would like to address the board on any issue that's not on the agenda, you may come forward at this time, state your name, your district if it's applicable. Any citizen desiring to approach the board on any issue that's not on the agenda, you may come forth at this time. Again, any board member wishing to approach the board may come at this time. Seeing no citizen with the intention to approach the board, I will declare the public comment section of the meeting over. That takes us to unfinished business. Continued first reading of amendment of elderly and disabled tax ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you recall, we at the last board meeting discussed this issue and ultimately decided to advertise a public hearing to increase the maximum total tax exemption from the current $800 to $1,500. And since that discussion, Sharon Carter has looked at the issue in more depth, and she's concluded that raising the maximum to either $1,200 or $1,500 really would only benefit the same people that are already benefiting from the ordinance. And her recommendation to allow additional citizens to benefit is to cap the total amount at $1,000, increase it from $800 to $1,000, but also raise the maximum income allowance from $35,000 to $40,000. And to bolster her case, she's included some comparison to, I think, 5 surrounding localities that's in the cover memo in the board packet, which show that Caroline has the lowest maximum income allowance of those 5 localities, with the exception of Essex County, I believe. So staff has not, at this point, advertised the public hearing with the $1,500 exemption in light of Mrs. Carter's new recommendation. And so we need to know tonight how you want to pursue it from here, whether you want to go ahead and stick with the original plan and advertise the public hearing, or make a change along the lines of what Mrs. Carter has recommended. She's not here this evening. She's at a conference, so if you want to table it and discuss it in more depth with her, we could do that as well, but that's where we are at this point.
I guess this is my point, since she is not here, and there may be questions that board members have for her that might help to determine which way we need to go on this. It might be better to table it until our next meeting when she's here, unless the board is comfortable with going in either direction at this point.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And maybe the county attorney could help us. In this particular case, if we were to move forward and advertise for a public hearing, with Mrs. Carter's suggestion of raising the income cap, could we, after the public hearing, change the values and make any other changes? It's not like a rezoning where proffers are in, and yeah.
I think you could probably lower the cap from what you you could decrease the amounts, but not raise the amounts, I think.
Which she wants us to raise the cap.
I know, but I mean, if you advertised for $1,000 exemption, then you couldn't go to $1,250.
So we could advertise at,
You could advertise for $1,500 and go
advertise
down.
the biggest possible thing there is and then go down.
Yeah, yes. And if you're changing the cap, I think the same thing. You know, advertise a larger cap and then.
But I mean, based on what she said, our goal, or at least, you know, my goal was to make sure that as many people as possible would be able to apply for this tax reduction, so.
But based on what she's telling us, that it's not going to affect anybody new, and if you raised it to 1,000 and went to 40,000 for the max income, you're exactly, to expand the net, it sounds like it's, I mean, to make it any bigger is a bridge too far.
Well, 40,000, I think you could go from 1,000 to, and because now it's 800.
Correct.
Go to
Right.
1,000 and 40,000.
Right.
And it's basically a $9,600 increase, or is that including the $35,000 cap? $9,600 here, is that taking consideration of $35,000?
That was just,
I think it's,
that was just 1,000, from 800 to 1,000.
Okay, it's just 1,000.
that's correct.
So,
Her recommendation was to 12,500.
No, it's
no, to
1,000.
raise the
Okay,
income.
okay.
Raise it to 1,000 and go from 35 to 40.
Yes, that's what she's recommending.
I mean, if that's what she's recommending, she's done the analysis, why don't we
That's
just
why I say move
advertise that and move forward with it, and at least we could, because you're going to 40,000 from 35, and we're going from 800 to 1,000.
And that's her recommendation?
And that's her recommendation.
And to me, that's capturing what we talked about earlier.
More people, right,
into the
right.
program.
I make a motion that we...
Because, I don't mean.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
Because we have one of the highest as far as acreage is concerned. And I realize Hanover has it, and Louisa has it, 10-acre parcel. But you take Orange, they have a 2-acre limit. They cap it at 2 acres. Dinwiddie has 5 acres, and some of these others have 1 acre, and a lot 1 acre, and 1 acre. Hanover and Louisa, the only two in the area that have a 10-acre limit, if you will. So I mean, it's a pretty,
I think it's
that's
a
pretty
max
liberal.
benefit.
Yeah, that's pretty liberal. I
And
mean,
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion that we advertise the $40,000 with a maximum of $1,000 allowance for public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would advertise at the rate that's recommended by the commissioner, which would raise it to 40,000.
And a cap of 1,000.
And a cap of 1,000. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right, that takes us to new business, an update on the county water system to Caroline Pines. Mr. Shebel.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good evening, sir.
I was asked to provide a brief update on the Caroline Pines water system. September 1 of this year marks the 3-year completion of the 652 waterline extension to Caroline Pines and the commencement of operation of that system. At this time, we have had 16 water main breaks and 20 service line breaks for a total of 36 breaks over the 36-month period that we've had to fix. We've averaged 9 the first year, 15, and then this year we're at 12. Total expenses that we've spent to date on the repairs is $11,735.55. $4,200 of that, in round numbers, was towards the repair, as well as $7,400 went to the labor. The majority of the breaks are a result of the freezing and thawing, as well as a defective altitude valve that controls the pressure-reducing valve that's for the lower part of the system. We did have an issue with that. The $2,100 availability fee that each of the residents were allowed to be able to pay back interest-free over 60 months, we have now collected 34 months of that, and 53 residents have totally paid off their loan to date. We've collected $635,739.22. The total that we expect to collect is $1,060,000 of revenue. The water quality in Lake Caroline, of Caroline Pines has improved drastically due to us taking over. The wells that they have all been removed off of line, and we have turned them back over to the Homeowners Association for them to dispose of by the Health Department standards. Due to the improved water quality, we've noted from the first year of us taking over the system now to our third year, an increase in usage as well, which we expected. A lot of people wouldn't drink the water. A lot of people would not wash their clothes. So we've actually seen an increase of 21 gallons per day on average per resident there of additional usage. We get into the page 3, gives you just a map of the service area. Page 4 is a breakdown of every place that we've had a leak. We keep this map updated to try to assist us as we get ready to start replacing lines, to look at the areas that we know that are troubled. And as you can see, the area near the clubhouse on Shannon Mill is one of the areas, and as well as Summer Drive down in the bottom are the areas that we've had major issues, and most of the breaks have occurred. If you look, each break, our estimated cost is about $303 per break. It's not a significant cost on those. Page 5 and 6 are breakdowns of each individual repair and the cost associated with those. Page 7 gets into the proposed replacement program of how we would replace lines. And that's just kind of out there so you can kind of remember as we talk about the service district fee and what we need to look at. We have discussed, and the board still has the option of putting that on at any time, but we've discussed waiting till the 61st month to start that. And looking at those, we're looking at about $19.47 or about 12.5 cents on the tax rate in that district in order to generate the money to be able to start those repairs. And then page 8 is just a graph of the water usage in the Caroline Pines, which basically shows you from the start of operation to today. And as you can see the usage continue to increase as we've continued. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members have questions for Mr. Shebel? Mr. Black?
Just a refresher, and thank you, this is really good, by the way, really good. But I just got a question as far as when we took over the system, you have a scheduled, we're replacing pipes in there gradually, is that correct?
We will, once we start collecting the money to be able to do that. Right now, we're just collecting enough money to pay the availability fee, which is help offsetting the debt service on extending the line to Caroline Pines. Once that's done...
how much time does that have left?
We're at 34 months. It's a total of 60.
Okay. All right. And then from there?
From that point, the board would need to decide we would put a fee on, and we need to, eventually we need to determine whether we're going to do that through a fee through the bill or whether we're going to do that through the taxes. And once that's determined of where that would be, we would start collecting that money. We would start designing in the third year and hoping to go to construction on that first phase within the 5th year. And then basically every 5 years we'd be doing a new project with the money that we have.
Other questions? Other questions? Not, thank you very much, Mr. Shebel. We appreciate your time. Very good report. That takes us to informational calendar item.
No, 5A.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5A. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
okay.
we had a contract with Federal Engineering as our radio design folks before I got here, and we still have some money that's unexpended on that, but the actual contract needs to be extended, and we would like to use them for a little bit of help right here at the end of the project as we are doing testing and system cutover and things. I think they'd be helpful as an independent review of things that Motorola's doing to make sure that we're getting what the contract requires. And so we would ask that you extend the contract with Federal.
To December
31st, 2016.
Okay.
Do we think that'll be the end of what we need at this point? Because are we any further with leaf testing? Because as we look, I'm not sure we're getting to the second week in October.
Oh, I agree. We're working, we've actually talked to Federal, even though we don't have an exact contract. It was, and so we're working on a process to work with Motorola, and we have a Motorola meeting Thursday, team meeting, so we're going to broach that with the Motorola folks as well. But we're coming up, hopefully, with a plan that will be acceptable to Motorola. It may require a change order contractually because they don't like changing things in their documents without that. So we'll probably be bringing that back to you as well. But yes, we are skeptical that we're at full foliage this late.
Okay, so we need a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, question, do we have access to the same consultants, or are they going to give us a new consultant?
It's
I know
Dave
it's a
Muniz.
contract.
Dave Muniz.
We still have access to him?
Yes.
All right, in that case, okay.
Okay, so we need a motion to extend the amendment December 31st, 2016.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We're moving proper second that the amendment be expended to December 31st, 2016. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to informational calendar items.
Don't forget, tomorrow is the UCI bike race, so please try not to travel around on 30 or 301 south of 30. You'll probably get hung up in some traffic. State Fair starts Friday, runs through the following weekend through the 4th of October. There is a community forum, candidate forum, I imagine all of you have been invited to, on October 1st here in this building, 6:30. Port Royal has a charter day at 9 o'clock on the Saturday the 3rd, and Special Olympics soccer is at the rec park on that same date.
What time?
9 o'clock.
9 to 1.
Oh,
It's the
that
same
is a
time as the
great
Port Royal
event.
thing.
I love that.
Sparta Day is the 10th. I don't know the time on that. Columbus Day obviously is a state holiday, and we have a board meeting on the 13th. And then the Bowling Green Harvest Festival is the 17th, and then Frog Level Festival is the 31st, and the 27th, as always, our legislative get-together, 6 to 8:30 at RACSB at their building over across from the high school. And that's the same Tuesday we meet every year.
Okay. Closing arguments, Mr. Thomas?
Closing arguments, I like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Closing comments, excuse me.
All right, just a couple, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not sure what county staff can do about this, but as we all know, construction has just begun at the high school, and it will be going on for at least 18 months. In November, we're going to use the entrance that was ruined by the construction for our polling place. So we'll be voting there. Since that is the Mattapan district, I figured I would ask the registrar myself how we plan to handle that. The registrar's here? Oh.
No, I'm pointing at the building official. We need to work together to make sure we can have access to the building some kind of way.
Well, we should have access to the building. The issue is the parking lot has been fenced off. And most of the entryway has been fenced off, so things will be a little different. Maybe we could get the contractor to back his fence up a little that day so that more people could park. It's going to be very bad because we have a lot of handicapped people that have to drive in and drive out, and right now there's no way to go in and out. So we'll have to do something with that. We may have to do something at our next meeting. And the last thing, and what Chief Loftus has discussed with the proposed new distribution center coming to Carmel Church, I would ask Mr. Cully if he would look at the CIP to see where we could insert the Carmel Church Fire Station, because with that building, we want to make sure we get our revenue from it. And that was it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Can I add one thing while you're on the high school? It's not really our event, but we have $10,000 in it. The senior gala uses that whole area to get into that too, and I've been thinking about how in the world we're going to get in there for.
Well, we can get them in from the backside.
Is there a way in that we can?
Yeah,
get from
they
a
can use the bus. I
know, but the
side.
parking lot for everybody else. I mean, we fill that parking. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people in that parking lot as well.
It's only half the parking lot.
But they can use the parking lot from the backside.
I know, but it's just a lot further to get to the building for the
For the
age of the
older-
folks that are
They
going.
can come in through the back parking
Yeah, they can come in through the back parking lot, and they'll just be in the hallway.
Right.
It is a longer walk, like you say, but it might be the same amount if they're parked 2 or 3 rows back normally. But the first thing that's going to happen is, you know, election
First thing is
time.
election, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's not bad, but
Okay.
that was it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Black?
Yeah, just one. Mr. Cully, I think what the gentleman, Mr. Shaw, talked to us about tonight, I think it's something that we need to really, I don't know if it could be, we can kind of start brainstorming about what we can do in this county to stop this, because it doesn't, the litter is not helping us at all, and it does look terrible, and I don't care where you're going, so, you know, maybe we can get some people together, come up with some ideas on what can possibly be done. Talk to the sheriff's office, you know, just brainstorm some ideas what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, just one comment along the lines of State Fair. I know that Ms. Jolliffe gave each board member several tickets to the State Fair. Certainly hope that you use those. State Fairs should be a great event, so come out and support the State Fair this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Akers?
I do, I have two. One is, you and I, Mr. Chairman, attended the grand opening, if you will, or certainly the dedication of the memorial park that was designed and built by the young man, Andrew Buck. If you recall, he was an Eagle Scout that came before this board some months ago, and I'm telling you, you often hear people talk about our young people in Caroline County. And it bothers me from a standpoint, our young people do a lot of amazing things. What Mr. Buck did with that memorial garden is absolutely amazing. It looks so nice, I mean, it really does. And he thought of the idea. I don't know that he did every single, well, I know he did not do all of the work because he had volunteers to help him, but he certainly saw the project through. And it's an extremely nice project. And so we need to recognize him as well for a job well done and something that needed to be done in Caroline County. The second was to pick up on what Mr. Black said. The county years ago had I think it was called a litter committee, but a litter committee, and that group did meet on a monthly basis, and they did talk about what could be done. And I think that's the best way. I don't know that the 6 of us can sit up here and come up with the solution and find the solution to a problem that's going to help the entire county. But if you have a committee that is drawn from throughout the county people, then I think you have a much better opportunity of getting some valuable input. And sometimes you get neighbors start to squeal on neighbors, if you will. They see them doing things that's not appropriate. So I like the idea, and I agree we need to do something, but I also like the idea of a committee of Caroline County citizens that will meet and discuss these issues. I don't think any of us think that we have all the answers, because we certainly do not. But I think if we pull in that brain trust that we have around us, we'll be much better off. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have only what Mr. Akers had said about the committee and Mr. Black as well. I think the first step might be to formulate a committee of people out of our districts and have them come up with some recommendations, and not just by themselves, though. Maybe they could meet with staff to begin with, to kind of give them some leadway as to what the problem is and how to address it. And certainly they would have input as well. And in the end, they may be able to just take it on their own. But to start with, if they could have someone from staff to be with them, and if board members could think of someone from their district that they would like to serve on that committee, and we could get that committee off and running as soon as possible, and hopefully we can get to the point where we can at least address some of those issues, because it's very real. And the only other thing is, again, Mr. Akers said again about Andrew, if we could prepare a resolution, maybe in our next meeting, to recognize him for the memorial park that he did. It was extremely nice, and I would urge if board members haven't had a chance to go by and see it, maybe you might try to go by and look at it, because it's a beautiful park, and he did an extremely good job. That's all that I have. Well, motion to adjourn is in order.
Second.
Moved and properly second that we would adjourn. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, we